All right, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Yasha. First off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh, and we do so in the name of His only begotten Son, our Messiah, Yahweh Shai, whom the world calls Jesus Christ. So it's your brother Kana and the brother Y'all. We're going to do a lesson, a much needed lesson, but to be honest, it's really a simple lesson. It's more of the milk. But I think a lot of people overlook it or come into the truth farther down the road. And, or actually, it's kind of like that study we did the other day here in my household. We did a study um, talking about being full, right? A lot of us get full of ourselves, full of, we think we're full of knowledge, full of righteousness, full of whatever the case may be. I think we've all come to that point in our walk if you've been in the truth for months, years, even like some of us have been, and you get to a point where you're like, you know what? No, I have to keep striving for more. I have to keep going. I'm not doing it right. Our righteousness is as rags, etc., etc. Right? So we're going to talk about practically applying the Bible versus over spiritualizing it, right? Over spiritualizing the Bible. So, Armando Alcala, Shalom. Jomar, good to see you on here, Ak. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Um,
shalom, everybody.
if you want to hop on, Ak, you just let me know. I can send you the link. But we're gonna start with practical. The definition of practical, right? The definition of practical is of or concerned with the actual doing or use of something rather than theory and ideas, right? So when we were in the Christian church or we were following these other ideologies or religions or all these types of things, what we were being taught was mainly theories and ideas of the scriptures compared to actually reading what the word says and doing what the word says, right? If you want to get James 1 and 22, and we'll go ahead and start there. Um, I was raised in the Catholic Church primarily till I was about 17, and I moved out of my mom's house. Then I was briefly in a, I guess you could call it, like I call them concert churches, like those huge, the huge Christian type churches in high school for a little bit. And to be honest, I mean, it was just because the female that I was talking to at that time, she was going. I started going. Then I even got my dad to go at one period,
Yep.
and then afterwards, my rib that I'm with now, probably 7, 8 years ago, maybe even 9 years ago, we started going to an apostolic church, right? But all these churches, what they had in common was they would over spiritualize everything to the point where they may give you a little bit of the word, or they may teach you certain verses, but like we've all probably been a witness to, they'll read one, two, three verses, and then what will they do? They'll just go on a riff and tell a story or something like that, and not really break down what it means or tell you that you actually have to apply it.
I actually got a precept too, if you want, before we go to
Con, go
that.
ahead.
Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 16, through the Spirit here. Be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself?
Con. So when you come into the truth and things of that nature, and I know this has happened to me as well, and I know the brother Jomar has spoken about it to me privately as well, but also spoke about it. I caught a little bit of your live talk the other day, and I remember you were saying, um, when you're first coming into the truth, the people that you listen to have a huge effect on how you see things, on how you act, on what type of spirit you're in,
That was
right?
a mighty live he did, by the way. I watched the whole thing.
Con.
Yep.
Yeah, the parts that I caught of it, I probably caught like maybe 15 minutes of it, Doc, and yeah, that was a good live, Doc. I appreciate you allowing the Most High to use you as a vessel. But that was something that I heard right when I got on, and I was like, man, I can definitely concur with what you were saying, bro, because that's exactly how it was too. You listen to someone who's talking about hating Edomites for nine tenths of the time that they're teaching, and guess what? You're gonna fall into that exact same spirit,
Mm-hmm.
right? But going back to the practical use of the Bible, right? This is James 1:22.
But be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves.
So once we come into the knowledge of the Most High, when we come into the knowledge of the basics as far as like who Israel is and keeping the Sabbath and the dietary laws and things of that nature, like I said, it's real easy to start falling into complacency, right? Or over uh like the brother just brought out, right? What was that? Ecclesiastes
16.
7:16. It says not to be over righteous, but you can't be overly wicked either, right? And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us end up learning some precepts or learning some laws and start keeping them. And a lot of times you can get complacent, like I said, right? And you start over spiritualizing certain things that you really shouldn't, right? Because like we'll get into briefly in a minute. When you look at the curses in Deuteronomy, I mean, 90, probably 90 some percent of them are physical curses,
Mm-hmm.
right? You will physically be sold to your enemies. You will physically, even though it's a mental type of thing, you will physically have sorrow of mind. You will have a trembling heart, right? You will pick fields, but you won't eat the fruits of them. You will physically build houses, but you will not dwell therein. Like I've said many times before, my rib's dad is a contractor, and when I worked with him a few years ago, he said, he's built hundreds or at least maybe 1,000 houses, never owned his own, always rented. These are physical curses, and it's also physical blessings when you go through the blessings, right? Your fruit, the fruit of your field, the fruit of your womb will be blessed. The fruit of your flocks will be blessed, right? It's all physical. So we have to remember that being doers of the word, even though the word is physical, right? We have to be, or even though the word is spiritual, Salakia, right? Then we still have to do the word, because if not, we're deceiving our own selves. You want to get John 6:63. John
Okay.
6:63, right? So it's funny because a lot of the things, like we just finished observing Feast of Trumpets, and then we did Day of Atonement, and then we just finished the Feast of Tabernacles. And like I said, the video actually cut off. I was trying to post it on Instagram. It was like a minute and a half instead of like the 8 or 9 minute video.
Mm-hmm.
But I was saying that all of these things really made me realize how like it's literally physical everything we have to do for the Most High, right? The word is spiritual, like Yahushua said, but we physically have to live it out, right? Go ahead.
This is John chapter 6, verse 63. It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life.
Go ahead and read it one more time.
Con. It is the spirit that quickeneth.
So it's the spirit that quickeneth, that's going to quicken you to do certain things. And when you read in the other like the NLT, other translations, the majority of them say it is the spirit that revives. Anytime it says quickens, right, it will revive you. Okay, go ahead.
The flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life.
So some people would take this verse and think, well, the flesh profits nothing. So the flesh is physical things. So when we do physical things, it doesn't profit us anything, right? But that's completely incorrect, because you physically keep the Sabbath, right? You physically observe the holy days.
Physically pray.
You physically pray for physical things,
Physically eat so you can live.
right? You get down physically on your knees and you pray to the Most High, right? And let's be honest, the majority of people are praying for physical things,
Exactly.
right? They're praying for a job. They're praying for to be able to pay the bills.
Yep.
They're praying for a righteous husband or wife,
Yep.
right? They're praying for yourself or for someone else to be healed of sicknesses, physical sicknesses, right?
Physical thing.
Right? You pray for someone you care about to stop being wicked, for them to physically start following the word, right? So all of these things are very physical, right? You even pray to the Most High, right? You pray to the Most High to rebuke spiritual demons, right? But those demons are physically troubling your spirit and your mind and your body, right? Which is why people fall into physical addictions, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
alcohol, porn, uncleanness, hatred, fear, whatever the case may be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then again, the blessings that come when you physically follow the word and keep the commandments, right? Those are also physical blessings. You get the job, you get physically healed, you get spiritual healing. But when you get spiritually healed, you also actually feel it physically, right?
So do. And
Because it's like you said actually on the live you did earlier. I didn't get to catch all of it because I was driving home from work, right? But
mm-hmm.
it's like you said, the fruits that you bear, you'll be able to physically see people bearing fruit,
Yeah, you gonna physically see all that.
right? You will, yes, they're spiritual, right? Like the fruits of the spirit, but you physically feel peace.
Yep.
You physically can feel joy from the fruits of the spirit, even though it's spiritual,
And
right?
you physically show love because it's action.
Whether it be to your husband, to your wife, to your children, to the Most High. How do you show love to the Most High? You keep the commandments. You physically, practically apply the commandments in order to show the Most High love, right?
You
You
physically have to wait when you're being patient and long
you
suffering.
physically have to have patience, or you physically can see when someone has self control, right?
Physical works behind putting in faith.
There's always the practical application of the Bible is always or almost always going to be physical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Antoine Duncan, shalom, shalom,
Shalom,
Shabbat
brother.
shalom. If you're observing the Sabbath today,
Yes, sir.
right? So, did you have a preset or no?
Well, I thought about the one in Sirach when you were talking about how when you pray to the Most High, you ask for spirit or not spiritual but physical healing from a sickness. And I actually recently, I don't know if the Most High was allowing the devil to try to make me feel like I was about to get sick or something, but I prayed to the Most High recently because my throat was kind of weird. Because this when we was keeping tabernacles, and
Yo,
like
calm.
for the first few nights, I physically didn't sleep in no blanket.
You know
So
you got cold,
so I
huh?
physically got cold and my throat started to ache. So I prayed to the Most High to physically heal me, and then sure enough, you know what I'm saying, after like 2 days, he literally healed it and it went away. But Sirach chapter 38, verse 15, it says, "He that sinneth before his maker, let him fall into the hand of the physician." That's a physical physician, not a spiritual one. You physically gonna go to the physician if you sin.
Calm. And when you look at all of the, or just the Ten Commandments, right? Going off the Ten Commandments,
Yeah, it's all practical.
okay, it's all practical and it's all physical things that you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're setting up idols. The majority of the time are physical idols, right? You can have idols in your mind and things like this, but it's physically talking about idols. When you
Mm-hmm.
physically use the Most High's name in vain and you use your words to say it,
The
right?
whole law is physical.
That everything you really think about, and that's like on that brother Chris, when he was talking about it, he said when you really think about it, and showing six people on here, right? So y'all correct me and the brother if we're wrong. Is there any law in the Torah that says, and is there any law that says spiritual? There's a spiritual law, because the only one that I could find or come up with was not to go to him that has familiar spirits, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's the only one I could think of.
That there's no laws that say spiritual this, spiritual that. Now, of course, through polysemy, right, when certain things have a spiritual and a physical meaning, right? But when you look at the law in general, it's physical law, right? It's physical.
Yeah, yeah.
So practically applying the Bible, when you're practically applying the Bible, you can't over spiritualize everything, right? Which a lot of people tend to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to following the word, many people act like certain things are spiritual only because they don't want to physically do what the scriptures say to do. Right? They literally just don't want to do it, so they tend to over spiritualize it to the point where they just won't do it.
And it's like, yeah, it kills me, Ak, because I mean, the biggest one and the most common one I gotta say is when people they have something against so-called quote unquote, and I quote, prepping for Jacob's trouble, as far as like stocking up food and stuff like that, despite the fact that one of the patriarchs, Joseph, actually did that through the Spirit of the Most High. You know what I'm
Con,
saying? They think that it's, oh no, they might pull that one verse where it says in Deuteronomy chapter 8, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out the mouth of the Most High. But
con,
still not understanding that the Most High still fed them physical food. So, I mean,
con. And when you really think about it, the Most High, because I mean, for those of you who don't know about that story, basically, what happened was Joseph got sold into slavery, right, into Egypt, and what happened was the Most High let him know that there was going to be 7 years of plenty, then 7 years of famine. And what he did to prepare for the 7 years of famine was he stored up food, right, in the cities round about, is what it said. And really, the Most High used him to help save some of his people, right, those that the Most High wanted to survive through that. So, I mean, the scriptures are given for our learning, right? They're given for instructions in righteousness, like it says, right? So when you take certain examples and things of that nature, it would be a very practical thing to prepare or to be prudent. If you want to get that real quick, Proverbs 22, and be prudent and foresee that evil and see that, like he said, one of our patriarchs did prepare for what's coming and do the same.
It's Proverbs chapter 22, verse 3. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. And I actually got one more precept to go along with that just to show how serious this is.
Con.
This is Proverbs chapter 27. All right. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 12. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished.
Con.
2 times.
2 times. And anytime it's reiterated like that, obviously it's for a reason, because it's very important, for us to not only read, right, but do, like the brother Jomar had posted the James 1:22, but be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. Right. So I believe it was, what, 2 nights ago, I think we did a study here in my house, with this brother and another sister in my household and stuff like that. And I was just asking them, okay, being prudent and foreseeing the evil, right? How could you apply that to your life? Like specifically to your life, how could you apply it? Right? And one of my daughters gave the example of, well, being prudent and foreseeing the evil. Let's say you're courting somebody, right? You're trying to prove them, to see if they could be a good husband or wife, and you see that they can't take correction, or they're not following certain things in the Bible, and then let's say they get corrected on it, and then they prove that they're not doing that, that they're not going to take that correction and use it and apply it to their life practically. Well, then that should be you foreseeing the evil, would be, well, I can't marry this person, because if I do, I'm just passing on, and I'm going to be punished with them. Right. So that's one thing that I think is very big amongst Israel as well. Is like the brother said about so-called prepping. I think everybody, not I think, I believe that every single person should prepare to the best of their ability, as their lot allows them to, right? Because we're all dealt different lots. But at the same time, because a lot of brothers tell me, well, I'm not in the position to do that, or I'm not in this. There's all types of reasons or excuses as to not doing it. And what I always tell them is, I believe it's Matthew 19:26, where it says, "With Yahweh, all things are possible." Right? Because 2 years ago I wasn't in the position to be in the position I am in now, and through a lot of divine intervention from the Most High,
Mm-hmm.
right? And nothing short of miracles that He's made happen in my life, um, especially when it comes to like financially and stuff like that. That it has become possible. So what I would tell brothers and sisters like that is, ask and ye shall receive, right? Knock and it shall be opened up to you.
You saw it.
You're never going to. It's like I remember one time a brother had told me, he was like, "Hey man," and I hadn't heard it since I was in the world really. He was like, "Hey, closed mouths never get fed."
I just said it today at work, bro.
Con, that's the spirit. So I hadn't heard that for a while, right? And maybe like a few months back, a brother told me that he was like, "Hey man, I mean, closed mouth." He was talking about a situation he was going through, and I went through something similar. Um, and he was like, "Hey, closed mouths never get fed. If they don't want to open their mouth, they can't be fed." It's the same thing with us and with the Most High, right? So if we're practically applying His word, we know that physical blessings are going to come upon us, right? And that's why even in Psalms, I believe it says that the seed of the righteous will never be begging bread, right? They're never going to be begging bread. The Most High is going to provide for you. But that takes you practically applying the Bible in order to do so. You got it?
I got a precept for you.
Go ahead.
Proverbs 4:13 goes perfectly with what we talking about. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 13. Take fast hold of instruction. Let her not go. Keep her, for she is thy life. Because you physically have to take what you're reading and physically apply it.
Calm.
You have to physically open your book and read.
Calm. And if I take hold of something, if I take hold of this brother right now by the arm, I'm physically doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't get, is that they read the scriptures and they understand it mentally up here in their mind, but they don't understand that it physically has to be applied to their lives, like specifically. And that's why when we study at my house, I'll ask them things like that, right? My rib, my daughters, like, okay, how can this specifically pertain to your life? How can you apply this to your life specifically, right? Because when we read all the stories, when we read about Abraham, right, and his son, and Isaac, and Jacob,
Mm-hmm.
and David, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're just talking about that. And David, yeah, he was going through spiritual experiences and praying to the Most High and becoming a friend of the Most High and all these things. But when he was protecting the sheep, he physically fought off a lion
Joe did. Crazy.
and a bear. And then when the Most High was with him, what did he do? He physically stepped up and fought Goliath when nobody else would, right? When you're actually, when you trust in the Most High, when you truly trust in the Most High, it's gonna make you physically do things,
Yep.
right? You got a precept?
No, I couldn't find it.
Let's go back to John 6:63, please.
Shit.
Con. So just to reiterate while he gets that real quick, practically applying the Bible is exactly what it sounds like, right? Remember, practical means of or concerned with the actual doing or use of something rather than with theory and ideas, right? So when you find out you're an Israelite and you find out you got to keep the commandments and all these things, it's not just that though, right? My rib's favorite verses, I'm looking up at them on a couple canvases that she painted and we have up in the dining room. It's Second Ezra 16:75 and 76. It says, "Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for Yahweh is your guide, and the guide of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith Yahweh." Right? So we have to understand that it's not about just keeping the laws, right? The whole book, it's like Yahweh Bashem Yahushai said, I come in the volume of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have brothers say this all the time, and I used to repeat this, not even repeat this. I used to regurgitate this religiously.
Mm-hmm.
Keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. You got to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. Laws, statutes, and commandments. Okay, but that's when you look at the Torah in comparison to the Torah, the prophets, the Apocrypha, the so-called New Testament, right? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all the letters, right? And then Revelation, there's a lot more to it than just the Torah,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when you really think about it, would Yahushua had to have come if we could just follow the Torah and make it to the kingdom?
Exactly.
Of course not. Of course, if it was just the Torah, okay, we follow it perfectly, we make it. We wouldn't need no Messiah to come then and die for our sins,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is why we have to strive to the best of our ability. Of course, no one's saying anybody's perfect besides our perfect example in Yahushua, but we have to strive to practically apply the laws and the precepts in order to make it through Jacob's trouble,
Okay.
right? Which is either in the beginning stages or we're already in it, right?
I think we already in it. It's just hyping up at this point.
Right. So,
And I do got a precept for you actually before we get into it.
Con, go ahead.
I flipped straight to it by the spirit, so I gotta give it to y'all.
Go ahead.
I just did a live on this, but the first part of what I'm about to read is the most important. Practicality. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 18. Whoso keepeth the fig tree shall eat the fruit thereof. So he that waiteth on his master shall be honored. The first part is so heavy. It says, whoso keepeth the fig tree shall eat the fruit thereof. Whether you look at this spiritually or physically, it's practical on both sides.
Con.
Literally. On both sides, no matter how you look at it, whether you're an actual farmer or whether you are looking at it spiritually, it's practical on both sides.
Con, if you're the tree, if like Psalm 1, the first chapter, right? If
Yep.
you're the tree, you're going to bear fruits, physical fruits,
Exactly.
right? Joy, peace, love, all the, once you get into the fruits of the spirit. And that's why, that's something that I think, well, I don't know about everybody else, but for me in Christianity, the fruits of the spirit was something that was pushed a lot, but it was pushed as a purely spiritual thing, right? Which, yes, of course, again, the word is spiritual, but you physically just taking love, right? Just taking love, the easiest one to deal with as a fruit of the spirit. It's a practical and physical thing you do. First John 5:2 and 5:3. It says, how do you love your neighbor or the children of the Most High? By keeping the commandments, physically keeping the commandments. How do you love the Most High? By physically keeping the commandments, right? So we have to be very careful in believing people that tend to over spiritualize everything, right? So go ahead and read that out.
This is John chapter 6, verse 63. It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life.
So this is our Messiah speaking, and he says the words that he speaks are a life and they are spirits, right? The words he was speak. What words was he speaking? He was speaking the Most High's words, right? He said, "This is not my doctrine. This is the Father's doctrine. It's not his words. It's the Father. These are not his commandments. They're the Father's commandments." He was speaking the words of the Bible. That's what he was speaking, and he's saying that the words he was speaking are spirits. So this is where a lot of people get confused, and I've said this many times. When somebody says that they're in the Holy Spirit, but then they're eating pork, but then they're doing things completely against the word, they got a spirit, but it's not the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Right? They may have 3,000 spirits like Legion, but it's not the Holy Spirit. Because the Holy Spirit coincides with the word, it goes hand in hand with the word. When you're in the Holy Spirit, it's going to make you follow the word of the Most High. And when you're following the word of the Most High, it's because you're in the Spirit, right? So go ahead and read one last time out.
Time. It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profited nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life.
So the words are spirit and they are life, but we physically follow the word to show that we're in the Spirit, right? And a lot of like, again, a lot of people think that everything is spiritual. If it says you have to be set apart, right? If they don't want to be set apart from wicked people, from their so-called friends, their family, their boyfriend or girlfriend, or people at the clubs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the case may be, because they don't want to be physically set apart from them, they're then going to over spiritualize those scriptures that say to be set apart, right? Because they don't want to be set apart. So when the words,
I wanted to say something, I ain't even gonna say it.
all
Yeah,
right,
I think about baptism.
I got you, I got you. The same thing with baptism,
That's
right?
exactly what I was thinking about.
The same thing with baptism. If they don't physically want to be baptized in water like our Messiah did, then they'll just over spiritualize it. No, it's spiritual. Every time it says water is spiritual, it's spiritual water, right? But we could show you all throughout Acts. You look at just the book of Acts, almost every single chapter, you got people physically getting dipped in water,
Yep.
right? When the eunuch, you got brothers, so-called brothers, right, teaching that
So called.
everything is physical. So the eunuch went down to the wall. He stopped his spiritual chariot and went down. He was first, they were reading the word, which is the spiritual water. Then they stopped the chariot and went down into the spiritual water to get baptized
Mm-hmm.
instead of physical water.
He came back out in the spirit.
And he came back out in the spirit, right? You have many brothers, or again, so-called brothers, congregations, camps, churches, whatever you want to call them, now that teach you everything is spiritual, right? Our Messiah never physically did miracles.
Yep.
That's what some people are saying.
Okay.
He never did physical miracles. They were spiritual. They were all parables, right? And this is because not only are they failing to understand what Christ taught, right? But they're also unlearned in the scriptures when it comes to the Torah,
Mm-hmm.
right? When it comes to the prophets, when it comes to the Apocrypha. Because when you look at the Apocrypha and you look at, okay, for example, when Antiochus Epiphanes, who is a real character in history, you can look him up, right after Alexander the Great or Alexander the Greek died. Antiochus Epiphanes was literally physically torturing people,
Yep.
right? And what did they say when they were getting tortured? They said it's because of our sins that the Most High is letting you do this to us.
Our physical
Our
sins.
physical sins, right? So we have to understand that all the accounts, and I mean, we could read hundreds of accounts in the Word that are all physical examples of people being blessed because of following the Word, or being cursed because they're not following the Word. Right? So anytime somebody tells you something spiritual in the Word and you don't have to do it, you really need to examine, take a step back, and whoa, hold up. So we don't have to do what it actually says because it's spiritual, and you need to really examine. You need to pray to the Most High, uh, uh, to guide you in truth, like it says in Sirach. What is it, 37 to 38,
37.
37:15, I believe. It says, so above all, to pray to the Most High that He guides you in truth, right? Because even though we are saved by grace through faith, not of works, lest any man should boast, right? Does that mean we continue to live in sin, though? Yahweh forbid, right? We have to practically apply the Bible to the best of our ability, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to, I mean, like the set apart one, that one is to me, and I know to this brother and a few other brothers and sisters that I've talked to, it's just insane that some people think you don't have to physically be set apart.
Literally, bro. Like you,
You're
it's just
you're
like,
setting yourself up
yeah.
to be taken over by spirits when you think or you teach or you live like you don't have to be set apart from wicked people.
And you tempting the Most High.
And you're tempting the Most High because you're basically saying, like, no, I don't have to physically flee like Joseph did, right? I don't have to flee from temptation.
I don't gotta flee like Lot.
I don't have to run away from sin, right? A little leaven doesn't leaven the whole lump.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what you're saying. Good Salakia. How does it say? Bad
Bad communication corrupts good manners. And communication actually translates to company. So
company, who you keep around you, right? Can two walk together except they be agreed?
La
Well,
ah.
I could walk around these people, be around them, as long as I'm spiritually set apart. This is
He,
what some camps and so-called brothers teach,
he that walketh among wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be a fool.
and shall be destroyed,
Mm-hmm.
right? So being set apart is crazy to me that people can try to over spiritualize it and that people will actually buy into that. To me, that's just that's insane, right? But it's like it says in Job, the deceiver and the deceived are the most highs,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in the end, all we could do is warn and keep it moving.
Yep.
People that are going to take heed to it and actually practically apply the precepts that the Most High gives us, then they're going to be saved from it,
Yep.
right? They're going to be saved from, or like it says, one of your favorite scriptures in Ecclesiastes 7, how it says, when a man's
When the
pleases the Most
way,
High.
even
You want to
his
get that real
enemy.
quick?
Yep.
Or when the one
When a man's ways pleases the Most High. Well, Ecclesiastes 7 about the wicked
about
women.
the wicked woman. Go ahead
Yeah,
and get that one real quick.
I got you.
Because another thing that you have to understand, right? When the word says that when a man gets a wife, he's supposed to be there for her for a whole year, right? This
Yep.
is something that I've seen a couple times.
Thou shalt not go out to do business for a year.
Con, Deuteronomy 24 and 5, right? I've explained this to a few brothers because they're, let's just say, elders, teachers, etc., have lived or continue to go against this law, right? Deuteronomy 24 and 5. It says when you get a wife as a man, you're not supposed to go out for a year. It says to war or to business. So not saying you can't go and work, say you have to be gone a day or two, whatever. But when you have a new wife, there's a foundation that has to be built,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have to be around her in order for y'all to build that foundation. Okay? So when you have so-called brothers out here marrying multiple women in multiple cities, and then their marriage is not working out, right? Or those women are sleeping around on them, well, yeah, brother, because you didn't practically apply what the Bible says to do, right? You weren't there to physically cover that woman. So because she's the weaker vessel, another brother just slide in her DMs, probably multiple brothers,
Multiple.
and she was lonely and she gave into it because you weren't there to cover her, right? So of course the sin falls on her. She's an adulteress, etc. But that you, as the head, are also an accomplice to that, right? Because you are suffering sin upon her by not following and practically applying the word and being there for her,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's just like Adam and Eve in the garden.
Exactly. As soon as he
It
was gone, what happened?
As soon as he was gone, that's when she started eating of these other doctrines, right? But again, it comes down to not practically applying the Bible, right? But go ahead and read that out.
Fine. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 26. And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands is bands. Whoso pleaseth Yahweh shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her.
Khan. So when you please the Most High, He's gonna allow you to get away from wicked women like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when you don't please the Most High, He's gonna leave you stuck with that type of woman because that's what you deserve. And go ahead and get Sirach 26 and 23, I believe.
Uh,
Right? We always have to understand that we always reap what we sow.
yep.
So if you're not applying the scriptures, right, then you are going to reap exactly what you have sown or what you have not sown.
This is Sirach chapter 26, verse 23. A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man, but a godly woman is given to him that feareth Yahweh.
So this is not me saying this, right? This is the Most High saying this. A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man, right? So when you see certain people that are in leadership positions, that have a lot of people under them, right, that are looked up to and even praised, and to be real, they're idols to certain people,
Yep.
and they have wicked a wicked wife or wicked wives, it's because of this verse right here. Go ahead.
A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man, but a godly woman is given to him that feareth Yahweh.
So a godly woman is going to be given to him that fears the Most High. And when you truly fear the Most High, you want to get Sirach 1 and 21? When you truly fear the Most High, this is something that can be seen of you physically.
That's the verse I was thinking about too just now. It says Sirach chapter 1, verse 21. The fear of Yahweh driveth away sins, and where it is present, it turneth away wrath.
When you truly fear the Most High, it's going to drive away sins. You're going to stop sinning, not completely, but you're going to see that person. You're going to see that person bear fruit. You're going to see them. Okay, damn, he's not smoking weed no more. He's been smoking his whole life. Damn, he doesn't steal no more. He was stealing his whole life. Man, he's not talking to a bunch of females no more. A bunch of worldly, lascivious, whorish females no more.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see these fruits, right? Because he truly fears the Most High. And that's why a godly woman's only going to be given to someone who truly fears the Most High, because that's one of the most valuable gifts the Most High can give you.
It's going to take time before he give you that.
Come. But the point is, you have to practically be applying the Bible in order to get that first. So when you see a lot of people that are over spiritualizing certain things, and then you see that they have their households out of order, they got a wicked woman as their wife, she's always clamorous and loud, or she's trying to run the household, etc. It's because they are not practically applying the Bible. They may have some precepts under their belt, right? They may be a leader of a whole congregation, of multiple congregations, but if the blessings aren't showing, then you should be able to see that what type of fruits they are bearing, right? Because a tree is going to, like you said in your live earlier, a tree is going to bear some type of fruit. It's going to be bad fruit or it's going to be good fruit, right? You got a precept?
Yeah, kind. I'm trying to find it since Sirach. What's the verse? It says the chief things of life.
Oh, come.
Chief things of life is bread, water, clothing, and a house to cover shame.
And a house to cover shame.
All of those are practical.
So think about that for a second, right? How many relationship and just me personally, I could think of at least a handful probably that I've known that if you don't practically apply that, things aren't going to turn out right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You have to have those practical chief things of life in order for you to be good. Right? And that's why it says a house to cover shame. Right? There's a brother on Instagram that has sent me this verse as well. It said, who will trust in a man who, how does it say, goes from house to house?
Who will believe a man that hath not a house? Something like that.
Khan, roughly paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to practically apply the word. Go ahead, on.
And this goes exactly with that same precept the brother just brought out. 1 Corinthians 14 and 40. Let all things be done decently and in order. Practically, that is.
Let all things be done decently and in order. Right? Go ahead and get me Luke 11 and 28, Baruch. Luke 11 and 28.
Spirit. This is Luke chapter 11, verse 28. But he said, yeah, rather blessed are they that hear the word of Yahweh and keep it.
Salaki, actually jump up one for context sake.
Kind. Verse 27. And it came to pass, as he spake these things, a certain woman of the company lift up her voice and said unto him, Blessed is the womb that bare thee, and the paps which thou hast sucked.
So picture this for a second, right? Yahweh Shai, our Hamashiach, our Messiah, he's preaching out in public, right? and someone comes up and says, man, blessed is your mom who breastfed you, right? Who had you in her womb. Go ahead.
But he said, yeah, rather blessed are they that hear the word of Yahweh and keep it.
So he said, rather blessed are those that hear the word, but not only hear it, but keep it, right? But notice he said rather, right? So someone came up and said, man, your mom is blessed. And he said, no, rather are blessed are they that hear the word and keep the word, right?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, those that practically apply the word, not those that are deceiving their own selves by being hearers of the word and not doers of the word, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whether it be being set apart, whether it be taking care of your household as a man, whether it be being obedient to your husband as a woman, right? Whether it be honoring your parents as children, we're all children of the Most High, right? Well, some people are their father, they're of their father, the devil.
Exactly.
But if you're striving to follow the word, you're striving to be a child of the Most High, and you have to honor your father,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when you think about it, how it says in Sirach and Wisdom of Solomon that wisdom can be like a mother to you. Of course, it's not saying she's physically. I've heard brothers say, "Oh yeah, like Mother Nature and wisdom are actually a woman and
That's a
things like that," right?
spiritualist mindset for you
That's
right there.
that's over spiritualizing, right?
Exactly.
But the point is, you're to honor your spiritual father. But how do you honor him? By physically keeping his commandments, by physically applying
Exactly.
his word to your life,
Physical obedience.
right? So another one, if you want to get a Revelation 18,
Con.
another one like the brother brought up earlier is coming out of her, right? And we're probably gonna do a live on this maybe within the next week.
Necessary for the edification.
And it probably won't be that long. I've done lessons on it before in the past few years, but I haven't done one recently on it. So I know there's new brothers and sisters coming into the truth all the time, every day. All praise to the Most High for that. So we'll
Con.
definitely do a lesson on that as well.
This is Revelation chapter 18, verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yahweh hath remembered her iniquities.
So let's see if anybody answers this in the comments. How would you practically apply coming out of her, my people, like it says?
I would love to see the answer.
How could you practically apply that, right? If you're on the live right now, if you want to answer in the comments, or later on, if you watch this later on, I know most people check it out later. There'll only be, a handful to the most is probably 20 people on the live, and then a few hundred views will come in later. If you want to put it in the comments, how would you practically apply coming out of her, right? Now,
One.
so being set apart, con,
Okay. Okay.
con,
Okay.
to become set apart,
One accord.
con, set apart. Okay, so set apart from what? Let's get a little more specific, right?
That's another one.
Do not practice false doctrines.
Very
Con,
good.
that's definitely
Definitely.
definitely a huge one, right? So right now that would be that can be spiritual and that can be physical, right? Because a false doctrine can spiritually lead you to death,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it also physically can lead you to death, right? Being set apart from wicked people,
Definitely.
con. So physically being set apart from wicked people, because that's like man, it's what is it? Psalm 101:3.
I would set no wicked thing before my eyes.
Con. Physically not putting anything before your eyes, which many times it's a wicked person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it says it shall not cleave to me. A lot of times the spirits on people, on wicked people, will do what? They'll cleave to you, right? They're like, oh, this is a cleaner vessel. This vessel has been, how does it say, cleaned?
That's like it also is Psalm chapter 1 verse 1 where it says, "Blessed is he that stands not in the way of sinners."
Khan. Blessed is he that stands not in the way of sinners. Just being around a whole bunch of sinners is going to lead you astray in one way or another,
Oh,
whether it
that's
be
a big one.
spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally, all of these different ways.
That's a big one right there.
Antoine Duncan, taking yourself out of the spiritual and physical Egypt Babylon system here in America and entering yourself into the Most High's will. So if you want to get Jeremiah,
On it.
con, con,
Through the spirit.
con.
As soon as he said the most high will, I got you.
So that's a beautiful answer, especially because in the past little more than a year, the Most High has been able to, or the Most High has allowed us to be able to do just that, right? But go,
Man, last 5 months for me, man, it's been such a blessing. Words can't even describe it.
con.
This is Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 16. Thus saith Yahweh, stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein.
They said we will not walk in the way that's going to give rest to our souls, right? So, as an example, right? Because this just happened last week. So me and my household went to San Antonio last week, right? Because I had to work, and they paid for a really nice hotel room. It was actually a suite. It had an indoor pool and everything. And my boss, he's real cool with me, and he told me like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get you a room with two beds with a pull-out couch with all that stuff, so you can take your family, whatever, right?" So I took them so they could have like a little vacation, I guess you could say, even though I had to work during the day, right? So we were only gone for 3 days, right? Just 3 days. But on the second day or the second like morning, I remember me and my rib were talking, and we went down and we ate breakfast. And it was crazy, bro, because the hotel was so nice. It was a kosher breakfast. It literally said kosher yogurt,
Oh,
a
man.
100% beef sausage. Like it was
Oh,
crazy,
man.
bro.
Oh.
All praise to the Most High, right? But anyways, the point is, we went down and it's crazy because the last few years, or even since me and my rib have been together, like 9 going on 10 years, we always wanted to like go on vacation and stay in hotels and all this type of stuff, right? But now that we have our own land and home and chickens, animals, whatever, we couldn't wait to get out of the city and come back home, right? And we were talking about this at the hotel, like, man, I would rather be home right now. Like, it's nice, whatever, but I would rather be home, right? And then later on after work that same day, my 14-year-old daughter, she didn't wake up to go eat breakfast, right? Because we went at like, I think like 5:45 or 6 in the morning, something like that, right? So later on, my daughter actually said the exact same thing, right? She hadn't even heard us say that earlier, but she was like, man, like, it's cool being in the hotel and like swimming and stuff like that, but like I would rather be home, right? So you could see, or I could see at least, how making that physical move to get out of cities and come out of her physically, right? It affects you spiritually as well. So that verse was Jeremiah 6:16. We'll read it again right now in 1 second, Knock. Right? So what you have to realize is that when you make physical changes, it changes you spiritually, right?
So does.
You can see how making a physical change to get out of the cities will spiritually make you feel better. But even though spiritually, you physically feel better too.
You physically gonna feel a whole lot better, man. I could just test from my own situation, man. And I was in Houston, and that's one of the most polluted cities too. When I first came down there, about 5 months ago, I had a whole different mindset because at that time I was still prideful. I was on my entrepreneur stuff. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is I can speak on it now because I'm not doing it no more. But at that point in time, I had like 3 businesses going on 4 that I had just started. You know what I'm saying? And the Most High eventually stripped a lot of it from me because I was dealing with a wicked woman, like Ecclesiastes 27 and 26 was talking about, right? But when I was going through my humbling situation, going through the physical wilderness, the practical wilderness, the Most High put me through so I can practically see if I had fruits or not, right? Then that's when I was begging the Most High, beseeching Him to literally let me. I had read this verse, Jeremiah 6 and 16. I literally begged Him nonstop, cried tears and everything for Him to literally make a way for me to come out of the city so I can stop feeling so vexed. Because every night, man, like I would try to go to sleep and I'm hearing sirens and stuff like that. I'm over here thinking people might try to come kick the door in and stuff like that where I'm staying at. Like, I mean, it's funny, but you know what I'm saying? At the same time, it was so serious though, you know. And it wasn't until I actually came and left. It was all uncomfortable, you know. I told my brother here, you know, multiple times, you know, whether it's a good change or a negative change, it's always gonna be uncomfortable. But when you make that change though, physically, then like he just said, you feel me? You feel good physically and spiritually.
Con. Go ahead and read it one more time.
This is Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 16. Thus saith Yahweh, stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein.
So, I'm going to ask another question, right? It says, stand ye in the ways and see and ask for the old paths, where is the good way? What do y'all think is the old path or the good way? What is the old path and the good way? And of course you can answer it in a spiritual sense as well. But what is that physical old path or that good way, right? Either or, right? And while we wait for that answer, I'll just go back to what the brother was saying, right? Because he lived in Houston. I was actually born in San Antonio, and I lived there for a good period of my life. So that's the reason we would like to go and stuff. I knew different places like you could go visit, like they have the Carlsbad Caverns downtown, the Alamo, the Tower of Americas. There's a lot of nice parks and zoos and stuff like that, right? But when we went this time, it seemed like completely different, right? Because we've been outside of cities for a little over a year now, right? The traffic, homeless people everywhere, literally on every road we were on in downtown or on the west side of San Antonio, there was homeless people. There's people drinking, smoking, begging for money, right? People sleeping on the sidewalks in the streets. You could tell a bunch of junkies and stuff. So all this physical wickedness that you can see everywhere, but of course, spiritually, you can see and you could feel like that dark or almost like ominous presence just everywhere. Like everywhere I went, you could just feel it, right? And my rib and my oldest daughter mentioned it a few times. Like, man, imagine if the lights got cut out right now. Imagine if an EMP went off right now.
I was literally thinking about that when I was in my homie crib on the floor, man. When I went through that process, the first thing I thought about, like, if shit hit the fan right now, what am I gonna do? Literally.
If Jacob's trouble was to start right now, right? What if all hell just started breaking loose right now, right? I was driving one morning, right? It was probably about like 6:15 or 6:30 to go and work because I had to drive about 30 minutes. There's a bunch of places where they had work in San Antonio, right? So I was driving out of San Antonio towards this place called New Braunfels, and it was like 6:15 or 6:30 in the morning, bro. And I'm driving out of the city, so there wasn't that much traffic, right? But it must have been for like a good 7-8 minutes, miles. I'm looking at the other side of the highway coming into San Antonio, and it was bumper to bumper, almost completely stopped.
Yep.
And I was just thinking, I don't know how many of y'all have seen The Walking Dead, right? But you know that one scene where they're trying to, I forgot where they're trying to go, I think Atlanta or something.
Yeah.
And they're all just stopped and they're getting out of their cars.
Like, what's going on?
And then they start seeing the zombies coming out. And so I don't know why, I just had like a thought of that, right? Because it was backed up for miles and miles and miles.
You be sitting there for hours too.
For real. And that's the thing. Like my brother-in-law, not to get too much off the point, but he's a truck driver, and he would say like, yeah, if I'm in, I know if it takes 30 minutes, if it's during the hours where there's traffic, it's gonna take at least 3 times as much. It's gonna take an hour and a half. And I was like, bro, why would you want to live like this?
Exactly, bro.
You know, why would you choose to live like this? Right? So point being though, that there is a good practical reason as to why you should come out of her, right? And yes, this is talking spiritually as well, coming out of the false doctrines, like the brother Armando said,
But even
right?
then, you gotta physically come out of it.
But physically coming out of the churches,
Yeah,
you
like
gotta physically get out the church.
you gotta physically set yourself apart and stop listening to certain people.
You gotta come out of those beliefs. And look, even though beliefs are like mental and spiritual, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you come out of those beliefs, you will physically stop celebrating Christmas. You will physically stop observing all of these wicked holidays,
Yep.
right? You will physically stop doing the things that are a westernized way of thinking, right? Um, Faith Yasharala, one physical old good way can be following the laws to the best of your ability.
Yep.
Khan, for sure. And again, people will say, well, that's more spiritual. No, it's not. You physically keep the Sabbath. You physically
Howbeit
stop
that
from
which
working.
is natural first, then the spiritual.
Khan, if you want to get that
Kind.
in 2 Corinthians 15.
Yep.
Antoine Duncan, the old paths are the ways that have been proven and shown by the Most High to be a good path and righteous for his people. Right? So I got a precept for that as well. That's a good answer to let me get Sirach 7:15 real quick.
There you go.
Let me get this one first and then
Go
you can
ahead.
go ahead. So this is Sirach 7 and 15, right? Because the brother said, um, he said the old paths are the ways that have been proven and shown by the Most High. Okay, so this is Sirach 7:15. It says, hate not laborious work, neither husbandry, which the Most High hath ordained. Right? So the Most High ordained us to be doing laborious work and husbandry. When you look up husbandry, it means the raising of animals, livestock, or crops. Right? And that's one thing a lot of people will tell me, like, what's the easiest way to, like, physically the easiest way to start preparing for the things that are coming? Because second Ezra's, Matthew 24, Luke 21, I could give you a bunch more precepts, Lamentations, Jeremiah, Isaiah, everything, all these prophecies say that a famine's coming.
So do
Right?
everywhere.
So brothers and sisters will ask me, what's the easiest way to start preparing? The easiest way would be start stocking up on food. Well, I don't have money for that. Okay, well, how many?
Asking you shall receive.
Asking you shall receive. But another thing I'll ask brothers and sisters is, okay, how many times have you eaten out this month?
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna get real quiet.
Ooh,
How many times have you bought new clothes or gone out to the movies or gone out for drinks or ate at a restaurant, or
Mm-hmm.
you got designer, or do you have a new car you're paying a note on, right?
Yep.
That's one thing that one of my uncles taught me when I was real young, and I'm grateful for that. Is he said, like, you don't need a new car.
No, you don't.
What do you need a new car? I've never owned a new car in my whole life.
Just need something that work.
Right? You just need something practical that will get you from A to B. Again, practical. It's going to get you to work. It's going to do what you need it to do, right? And that comes with not being prideful.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people have, it's like one of my best friends in middle school and elementary, right? He's a nurse, and I saw him a couple years back, and he was living in some apartments that one of my rib sisters used to live in. Some real, I mean, they're not real cheap, but they're cheap. They're not good looking apartments. They're older, right? But the man has a Corvette, right? We have to learn what's practical for our life. And he has a Corvette, and at that time, his wife was pregnant. And I'm like, bro, you got two seats in your car. You're a nurse. You got a baby on the way, and you're living in an apartment. Like,
Come on, man.
it makes way more sense for you to have something practical, a practical vehicle, and live in an actual home, right? But going back to this, it says, hate not laborious work, neither husbandry, which the Most High hath ordained. Getting yourself some chicken. If you look on Craigslist, you could get some chickens for as cheap as $5, right? and you're gonna have free eggs. And guess what? If the shit hits the fan, at least you have some eggs to eat. If they stop laying eggs, you can eat the chicken. Right? Real simple. Right? And the brother said, the paths that are shown by the Most High. Anything in His Word is that old path. Right? But we have to understand that there's certain verses and certain topics that a lot of people stray away from purposely.
Yep.
Like, come out of her, my people,
They don't want to talk about
because
it.
they don't want to do that. And
Yep.
and I talked to a sister actually not too long ago about how brothers have in the past strayed away from this purposefully because they want to keep their congregation amongst them in certain cities.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Y'all got to understand that certain brothers pay money monthly to be parts of camps or congregations, which is completely insane to me.
Foolish.
Right? But go ahead, Og.
This right here is 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 46. Howbeit that was not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural, and afterward that which is spiritual.
Con. And I'm gonna get that in the NLT real quick. You
Con.
want to read it one more time?
Con. Matter of fact, I'll read 45 and 46 just to give you context. Verse 45. And so it is written, the first man Adam was made a living soul, and the last Adam was made a quickening spirit. Howbeit, that was not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural, and afterward that which is spiritual.
Con. Salakia. So this is in the NLT, right? It 1 Corinthians 15 and 46, it says, what comes first is the natural body, then the spiritual comes later.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what we have to understand is, like I said previously on a few different videos, one example that I always give brothers especially is like they come into the truth and the first thing they want to do is get a rib. Right? But you have to physically be able to handle that first. Right? Because if not, you're going to be worse than the infidel.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're going to be worse than the infidel if you're not. You want to get that real quick? 1 Timothy 5 and 8. So a lot of times,
Spirit, dog.
so a lot of times, what happens is, right? It says the physical comes first, right? The natural comes first, then the spiritual. Like, think about it. How many of us were born? We came naturally, physically out of our mother's womb, and we knew the laws, statutes, and commandments and precepts. None of us, right?
I think John the Baptist was the only one who did
Yeah,
that.
how was shy, right? But
That's it.
so if we're natural first, right? Shouldn't we then practically apply the word as to where we should physically be ready to handle or to provide for ourselves, to provide for our women, children, etc. first, right? Because I could tell you, shoot, I could think of plenty of brothers that are in congregations or camps or churches that have enough precepts to be able to give people, to be able to give a woman, right?
Oh yeah.
But then at the same time, I know a lot of these same brothers that have no job,
Mm-hmm.
no money coming in, unless it's coming in from the people that are paying them to be a part of their congregation.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the flip side, their wife or wives are working to make physical money, which is completely backwards. Right? That's the woman being the head. And now I'm not saying, I know there's certain situations. Yes, we're in Babylon, and it is easier for a woman, at least down here, and from what I've seen, it's easier for a woman to get a job
So then.
because let's be honest, the majority of times, men are in positions of hiring authority, and if you are a semi decent looking woman, right, or you got a decent looking figure, that man will hire you.
Yep.
So in certain instances, I could see that, but it's never okay for a man to just completely not be working and the woman is providing for him, right? If you want to read that one more time out.
Kind. First Timothy or
Oh yeah, the First Timothy.
kind. It's First Timothy chapter 5 verse 8. But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel.
So if a man doesn't provide for his household, it's saying he's denying the faith, right? So if you don't physically provide for your household, you're denying the faith. And again, when people hear the word faith, they think spiritual, right?
Every single time they be like, "Oh, I have so much faith. Oh, all you gotta do is just have faith. All you gotta do is have faith." But they never want to go to James. They never want to go see what James said. They just say, "Oh no, you got just." So what is faith? Faith is when you believe. When you say that you believe.
Con. If you want to get that,
I sound like a Christian, don't I?
you sound exactly like Christian. So let's be let's be real though. Christian, I would consider, because people ask me that, right?
Yeah,
Are you a Christian?
Not by modern terms on that.
Not by religion, right? But by the definition, the actual definition of a Christian is to be Christ-like. So yes, I strive to be a real Christian.
Absolutely.
Right? But what the brother is saying is completely true, because when you hear the word faith, right, in 1 Timothy 5 and 8, it says, if you aren't providing for your own house, you're denying the faith. But faith is actually shown through your works, which is what he's saying. Yep. Go ahead. I believe it's 18.
James chapter 2, verse 18. Yeah, a man may say, thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works.
Calm. So when you really think about it, you cannot show somebody your faith without works. You can say you have faith all day long, right? But if you don't have the works to back it up, how can you physically show it? You can't, right? The Bible in the Greek or in the westernized way, right? Belief is mental.
They sure do.
But in Hebrew, belief means to obey, right? Hebrew is more practical language and culture, right? So the example I always give, and I've told this brother, and I've said it on many lives, is if I tell this brother, get out the street, an 18-wheeler is coming, he could say, yeah, I believe you, and he stays in the street.
Yep.
He doesn't really believe me unless he gets out of the way, right? And that's how I take Revelation 18:4 and 5. Come out of her, my people, so you don't take part in the plagues.
So you don't get hit by that truck, man.
Right? But we'll get back to that in a minute. If you want to get 2 Thessalonians 3, let me see. 3 and 10. 3 and 10. So somebody tell me, how do you practically apply this verse? And I see there's a couple comments. I'll get to them right now. Somebody tell me how you practically apply this verse. Go ahead, Art.
This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 10. For even when we were with you, this we commanded you.
We commanded you. Go ahead.
That if any would not work, neither should he eat.
That's a simple, practical precept that we should all apply, right? If any would not work, neither should he eat. Got a precept?
I got a perfect precept literally to go with what we're talking about people that over spiritualize things, and like how you were also saying you got certain camp leaders and people that's like heads of congregations and stuff. They stray away from certain things for a specific reason because they're lazy. They don't want to do it. This is Proverbs chapter 20, verse 4 that literally goes with the verse we just read. The sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold. Therefore shall he beg and harvest and have nothing. The code can be anything. The code can be whatever excuse they want to make up.
It's and in reality, it's uncomfortability,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm uncomfortable working, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think you said you didn't see it. I don't know if any of y'all saw part of that interview, that Kanye West interview.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to see not even half of it,
I
maybe a
ain't
fourth
even,
of it.
not even 2 minutes.
But one thing that he said, and I was like, man, I definitely feel that. He said he was talking to the so-called synagogue of Satan, right? I won't even say the term that they use because they'll probably flag my video and take it down. But he was
Yeah,
talking about them. He was like, y'all, the thing is, like, y'all are soft. Y'all don't have calluses in your hand. Y'all don't work like I work, right? And now I don't think that man physically does work. I think they said he's worth more than 11 billion. He's the
yeah,
richest so-called black or Negro man in the United States to ever live in the United States,
yep.
right? So I doubt that he does that, but I can definitely feel what he was saying in the terms of if any would not work, neither should he eat,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's one thing about me. No matter what, even when I was a so-called stoner and I would smoke all the time, right? Every day I would work,
Yeah.
right? Even if it was when I was training MMA and I would train 3 times a day to fight professionally, right? I would always do that. So I can't sympathize with anybody who's lazy, who's a sluggard, who has an excuse, which is like the brother said, it's the cold,
Mm-hmm.
right? Some people say, man, it's too cold to go outside. It's too cold to work.
I can't come out of her because I don't got the resources.
In the end, it's excuses, right? Because the Most High, actually, if you can get that Matthew 19 and 26, I
Uh,
believe, and I'm gonna read 2 Thessalonians 3:10 and 11. It says, "For even when we were with you, this we commanded you that if any would not work, neither should he eat." Verse 11, "For we hear that there are some which walk among you disorderly," meaning out of order, "working not at all, but are busybodies.
mm-hmm.
Now them that are such we command and exhort by our Adawan Hamashiach Yahushai that with quietness they work and eat their own bread."
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's why in Sirach, that's a heavy verse that I've given to a few brothers, and I know Hebrews 4 and 12, I could see it and I can hear it in their voice sometimes.
The life of a man.
The life of a man that depends on another man's table is not to be counted for a life. Meaning you have no life if you depend on somebody else to live as a man, right? Um, Let me see the. I'm gonna go up on the comments real quick. The brother Armando said, "Well said, brothers. Got to physically come out of false doctrines." Most definitely. Savage Trader. There are many ways to create your own income. Example, landscaping, side jobs, or collection of scrap metal. You have to grind for the blessings to come
Didn't we talk
to
about that
fruit.
earlier?
So me and this brother have done that. We've done landscaping. We've done side jobs. We've collected scrap metal.
I've literally had to, yep, was working my uncle for that
We
stuff.
we've done all of that, and it's like this, right? I was telling a sister and a brother, right? Telling the brother that you could pray for a job all you want, but if you're not out applying for jobs and not just applying anybody, you know how many applications people get? You gotta call them. You gotta go in there. You gotta let them see you. You gotta let them know that you actually
Want to work?
are sincerely trying to work.
That's like when Yahweh Shai said, and was it in Matthew where he was? It was either Matthew or Luke where he gave. It was a deep, real explanation where it was saying which one of you, like, if basically paraphrasing, if you go knock on your friend's door late at night asking for some bread, even though he might not want to give it to you for just like friend's sake, he'll do it just because you're being annoying. You know what I'm saying?
Con.
So based off of what you just said, like, you just gotta put yourself out there.
You gotta ask the Most High, praying, right? And that's another thing Yahushua said. He said, "Ask, And then he said, what? Knock, physically knocking, right? And that's an example of that. Whether you be knocking on people. I remember when I had my landscaping business for a couple years, the first, right when I started it, I bought a bunch of business cards and I was going to a bunch of different neighborhoods and knocking on doors. They don't answer, I'm leaving a card. They answer, I'm bugging them, right? And that's what you have to do. You have to be willing to, like he said, grind for the blessings to come to fruit, right? It's not just gonna happen because you prayed for it, right? Sometimes you pray to the Most High, and look, you've been keeping the word and you've been obedient, and He gives you that blessing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Again, you physically get on your knees and pray, you
Mm-hmm.
physically receive a blessing. But the majority of the time, the Most High is going to help the person that is striving to help themselves, right? Um, what the Most High told Adam, by your sweat you shall eat. Got to work to provide and eat. Kind of have that verse, and it's in Genesis 3, I believe 3 and 19. Uh, I had it on my old landscaping shirts as well. In the NLT, I think it says, by the sweat of your brow you shall eat. And in the KJV, it says, by the sweat of your face shall you eat bread. Right? You got to work hard in order to be able to eat, right? And I don't ascribe to the 12 tribes chart as being 100% accurate, but I will say that so-called Hispanic, a lot of them carry the characteristics of Issachar and being hard workers and stuff like that. But also, just Northern Kingdom, Southern Kingdom, there's a lot of brothers that fit that description,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what were you holding on?
This is Matthew chapter 19, verse 26. But Yahushua beheld them and said unto them, with men this is impossible, but with Yahweh all things are possible.
So you may have a reason, or in your mind it's a reason, right, as to not do something, right? You may have a reason as to why you don't want to follow a precept, or you don't want to, whatever the case may be. But in the end, if you believe this verse, it's an excuse, right? And it may sound harsh to you, right? But guess what? You can save with fear and you can save with compassion. And from what I've learned over about 6 years of or maybe 4 or 5 years of counseling, around six of being in the truth. What I've learned is that most people, it's not compassion.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Because in the Christian church, that's all you hear is compassion, and it doesn't work, does it?
Uh-uh.
How many people are saved by, oh yes, Jesus loves everybody, and He's coming back for when He loves the world, and all you have to do is believe and you're saved. Of course, those are lies, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people need to be scared into this thing. I know I was scared into this
I
thing,
was terrified, but I ain't gonna lie to you.
and that's why the fear of the Most High is the beginning of wisdom, right? But the point being that if you believe this verse, go ahead and read it one more time, Mark.
Con. But Yahushua beheld them and said unto them, with men this is impossible, but with Yahweh all things are possible.
With the Most High, all things are possible. If you truly believe that, and you're willing to practically apply the word, right? And actually strive to, okay, this law, I didn't even know that was a law, I'm applying it. Man, I didn't know there's 2 3 precepts on, oh, following the old path, right? Well, what's the old path? Well, let's see how our ancestors lived back in the days. And when you really look at it, when you look at all the accounts of our ancestors in the Torah and in the days of old, to put it simply, they were they strived to be as self-sufficient as possible,
Mm-hmm.
right? Meaning, and that's a big part of the coming out of her, right? Not having to rely on electricity, water, food, all of these things, that in reality, if they have control of that, they have control of you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the more you're dependent on the system, it's like, I remember it was probably close to a year ago that brother Chris had said that if your covering is Babylon or your covering is Egypt, then whatever befalls Egypt befalls you.
Yep, guaranteed.
Right? So as a woman, that's another big one, right? Because it was like I was telling the sister, I was gonna mention it a little while ago, and she was saying, well, like, how do I mean, it's hard to find a head and blah blah these types of things. The sister and many other sisters, okay, I've seen multiple sisters. I was actually talking to this brother and another sister the other day here in my house and mentioning it. It's crazy that sisters say they want to get covered, but then in their it says in their bio, no men in my DMs.
Yep.
And it's like, wait, but you say you're trying to find a hit. Like, how do you expect a man? Well, I mean, I don't know if they expect him to like ignore that
Yeah, and
or
just be out of order and be like,
right.
oh, well,
I
forget
know
that.
it said what I know you said this, but
Forget that.
right, because a man that follows the word is gonna see that and be like, all right, well, she don't want a man in her DMs. I'm not gonna be in her DMs,
Thanks.
right? But anyways, what I was telling her is like, you can't be, if you want to be practical about it, how are you gonna be like in a basement on your phone or on the computer somewhere expecting a man to come and find you or something?
Exactly, bro.
He's just gonna come knock on your door,
Just magically coming, just all of a sudden he had an epiphany. Let me go to this house right here.
right? And the sister was saying something to the effect of like, well, there's not many brothers in my area and blah blah. Blah. There's not many people in this truth. It's like Solomon said in Ecclesiastes 7, one of 1,000 men, right? He found, but no women. That's what he said. So when you're thinking of practically applying certain things, right? Again, ask, right? Ask and ye shall receive. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Seek and ye shall find. With whatever it is, whether it's coming out of her, whether it's finding a covering, right? Whether it's being able to prepare for the things that are gonna come, right? Because for me, like I said earlier, going to a huge city, which the population is like, I think it said 1.5 million people. 1.5 million people. That's a lot of people, right? Now compare that to where me and this brother and my family live. This it's not even a city; it's a town, or I guess you would call it. It's less than 100 people population, right? So that physical move of coming out of her that we made brought spiritual peace to our household, and it made us closer physically and spiritually, right? We physically don't have to worry about our children going outside, jumping on the trampoline, feeding the chickens, playing on the playground, right? We don't have to worry about them going outside and seeing or smelling people using drugs like we did at the last place we lived at.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to physically worry about our children going outside or even being in our home, right? Because in one apartment that we lived at, we would hear the couple upstairs fighting, and you would hear banging, and I don't know if they were physically fighting
More
or
than
what.
likely.
You'll just hear breaking stuff, right? We don't have to worry about them physically, spiritually, or emotionally being led astray by me or my ribs blood family who aren't in the truth, because we've lived with both of them years ago before the truth, right? We lived with her mom, we lived with my mom. Physically coming out and being set apart from people that aren't in the truth, right? My children have gotten far more physically responsible, just tending to our chickens, right? To our dogs, washing their clothes by hand, right? And doing these types of things, helping build our fence, or just being out of the cities, being more in nature. Because I know me and this brother definitely on one accord with that. I don't know about y'all, but that's where I can feel the Most High's presence the easiest,
Mm-hmm.
in His creation, in nature, out of the cities, right? Out of the concrete jungles, like they say.
Mm-hmm.
And think about it, that's the old path. And that's the path that gives rest for your souls, like we read earlier.
Real rest for your soul, man. That's something I can't even explain what that feel like. It's just
Just being out. We go walk in the back, and there's one, two, three, four. I don't know know how many fields back there, cornfields, sugarcane fields, and stuff like that. There's some water in the very back behind the fields and stuff.
Birds chirping, wind blowing.
Right? You don't hear no sirens. You don't hear people yelling and arguing, and you don't smell weed because
Man, you don't smell no dope, none of that.
right. Set apart Robert Issachar Shabbat Shalom Mak Khan Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai Barakatah. Call hello Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. But yeah, so practically applying that verse specifically, right? If you can read it one more time, Revelation 18:4 and 5.
Con. Revelation chapter 18, verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yahweh hath remembered her iniquities.
So of course you have to come out of all the false doctrines, but you physically come out of them. You physically be set apart from people that are observing the false doctrines, teaching the false doctrines, right? It's all spiritual, but you have to make physical moves, right? Even like when you think about it, oh, we walk by faith and not by sight. How do you walk?
You gotta walk physically,
It's
buddy.
it's that's a verb, isn't it?
I mean, shit, how else you gonna walk?
It's a physical thing, right? Think about that. Walking is a physical thing, but you're walking in the spirit. What does it mean to walk in the spirit, though? Like Yahushua said, John 6:63, the words he speaks are spirit,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's like the brother and the sister that was here, my household that was here, and they kind of all looked at me when they asked the question, like how do you walk in the spirit or something about, or how do you be disciplined in the spirit, right?
Yeah, she had asked about discipline, I think is what it was. And we went to Wisdom of Solomon.
So Wisdom of Solomon 1 and 5 says that it's a spirit of the spirit of discipline, right? The spirit of discipline. So when you think about it, discipline is just I'm going to do this, right? There was many times when I was training MMA 2 to 3 times a day, right? And I would wake up at 5, or when I was teaching and I had to open the gym at 6, which means I had to wake up at like 4:30, 4:45, sometimes earlier because at that time I was smoking weed and I had to get high before I went,
And then go to sleep early and wake up in time just to get half of
right?
you.
So I would wake, man. I don't think there was ever a time I wanted to wake up that early, but I was disciplined enough to do it. So if we can be disciplined enough to do stupid worldly shit like that, right? That's how I think about it. Then you better be able to be disciplined to study every day and to strive to apply it every day,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if not, then don't you love whatever you're more disciplined for more than the Most High? If you're so disciplined that you wake up early every day and go to your job, so you love money more than the Most High, you're more disciplined for money than to follow the Most High,
Mm.
right? If you think about this, all of us, anyone who's had a job, I guarantee you've had a boss that you didn't like.
Tell me about it.
But I bet you were real nice to that boss, weren't you?
Yep.
You were disciplined enough to rule your spirit to not get fired because you needed money.
They
So
kiss their ass.
hey, right, and sometimes you gotta, yeah, you're brown nosing, right?
I would try to keep a distance.
So if you are that disciplined for money, for a job, right, for someone you don't even like, for someone who really, I mean, your boss didn't write your checks the majority of the time, they're just managing you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're that disciplined to rule your spirit for them, you have to be equally or more, even more disciplined for the Most High. And how do you be disciplined? By practically applying the word.
Yep, and practically examining yourself.
And that's why when you think about it, another thing that, that Brother Chris said, right? When you think about it, really think about it. Think about people that you've heard in the past over spiritualize the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
right? They are some of the most disobedient people that you could think of.
Man.
They may know some verses or whatever the case may be, but the reason they're over spiritualizing it is because they don't want to be obedient. Right? If you can get 1 Samuel, I think it's 15:22, that obedience is better than sacrifice.
Yes, it is.
Because some of the most spiritual, I would, in the apostolic church, I'll tell you that, man, there was so many people that were, they claimed to be so spiritual, right? And they would speak in tongues. It was like they were competing to speak in tongues. One person would start speaking in tongues, and then everyone would look at him like, oh my God, look how holy this person is. And then the next person, and then the next person. And now, next thing you know, you got 10 people in the church speaking in so called tongues.
Ain't saying shit.
Ain't saying nothing. Go ahead.
This is 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 22. And Samuel said, hath Yahweh as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of Yahweh? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams.
To obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken, meaning to listen and apply, is better than the fat of rams. In other words, sacrifices, right? There's certain people that uh someone had posted a video not too long ago. It was that dude from, man, what's that movie? I it's funny because this brother and some other brothers and even a sister kind of make fun of me because I've never really seen any superhero movies.
Bro, you don't watch nothing, bro.
I really haven't seen none of those except maybe Spider-Man 1,
So
the
you seen
old
Superman,
Batmans.
right?
Well, not even
You seen
not the
Smallville.
movies. Smallville, right? It's a TV show. But to go, man, what is that one with? I think it's like the tree. There's like a tree in it.
It's a superhero movie, or
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
a superhero movie. There's like three or four superheroes, I guess. One of them is Batista, the wrestler.
shit.
You know what I'm talking about?
There must be something new.
I can't remember what it's called, but the main actor, man, I can't remember his name, bro. Somebody had just posted him. I think it's like Chris something. I don't remember his name, but anyways, he's in some superhero movie, right? If y'all know what I'm talking about, I think one of them is like it's like a tree or something. They're like in space or something like that. But anyways, the dude was on a TV show, right? He was being interviewed, and he was saying he's Christian and stuff, and he was like fasting, and he like you look at his face, and he looked like he was making his face
You
to,
can tell he was doing that shit.
yeah, and you know how it says,
Don't do
you know,
it. Prats.
Prats.
Is that what it's called?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, to be honest. I haven't seen it, but I just saw that Guardian of the Galaxy. That's what it's called.
Oh,
Okay, yeah.
I have seen Guardian of the Galaxy.
Okay, the main dude, the main actor, right? The Wada Khan. It is that because I saw it said actor from whatever his name was, Chris something, Guardian of the Galaxy, and he was talking about how he would fast and how he was not eating, and that's a sacrifice you're making, right? Like, I'm a sacrifice eating food. The Most High doesn't want that if you're not being obedient.
Exactly.
He doesn't care what you give up. Oh, I'm gonna stop watching TV. I'm not gonna watch Netflix for a month. He doesn't care if you're not practically applying what he tells you to do in the first place, right? That's like if my daughter, if I told her, "Hey, I want you to clean the kitchen, wash the dishes," right? Look, it's a mess, and I come home and it's a huge mess, and she's like, "Hey, I didn't watch TV though." I'm like, "That's not what I told you to do in the first place, right?" Oh, okay, Chris. Yeah, I think that's his name, Chris Pratt. But yeah, that dude, I don't know if it was an old video or what. It looked kind of old, but someone had posted it recently, and it was him like talking about his fast on some news station, and they had posted, how Yahushua said, I think it's in Matthew 6, where it says when you fast,
Yep.
not to let people know that you're fasting.
Wash your face.
It says not
Fix
even
your
to
hair.
be making faces, right, and groaning and things of that nature. And that's exactly what he was doing, right? So the Most High doesn't care about your sacrifices if you're not practically applying the Bible, right? Go ahead and read it one more time, Mark.
Con. And Samuel said, Hath Yahweh as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of Yahweh? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams.
Again, obedience is physical the majority of the times, right? Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 real quick. We'll probably finish with that, right?
Spirit.
Go ahead,
Chopping
Ad.
it up like that, man. 15 or one.
You can read 15 first.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So that's 15, right? Now, go ahead and just and keep going.
Con. Cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kin, and the flocks of thy sheep.
So when you start reading these, it says, "Cursed in the city, cursed in the field," right? Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy ground. So the fruit, again, talking about husbandry, right? Talking about husbandry, which we read in Sirach 7 and 15. Also, when you read, I believe it's in Chronicles, it says that they loved husbandry,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it says, uh, the curse is going to be the fruit of your ground, the fruit of your cattle, the fruit of your body, right? These are all physical things. The it also in verse 4, it says, go ahead and read verse 4.
Verse 4. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kin, and the flocks of thy sheep.
So you're going to be blessed in the fruit of your body, right? Which can be your children. It can also be your the things that you actually do with your body, right? It says, blessed is the fruit of your ground that you grow, and the fruit of your cattle is this spiritual cattle, right? And the increase of thy kin, your people, right? Because one of the in Genesis, one of the laws actually says, be fruitful and multiply,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I had someone recently ask me, like, man, are you gonna have children and things of this nature and stuff? And I've answered that question many times, like, doesn't the law say be fruitful and multiply?
Exactly.
Right? And some people will say, well, it says, you know, in Matthew 24, Yahushua said that, woe to him that be with suck in those days,
So,
right? That's talking about those that are wicked, right? Because in Isaiah 66, it says that my servants shall eat, right? My servants shall drink, but you shall be hungry, you shall be thirsty,
they
talking to
shall
those wicked,
rejoice.
right? They're going to rejoice, right? And that's why in my house, we always pray Luke 21 and 36, that we're
Mm-hmm.
accounted worthy to miss all these things that are going to come to pass, all the plagues that are going to come to pass, and to stand before Yahushua, the Son of Man, and that we don't have to die in that day, and that we get to make it as a family, right, into the kingdom of the Most High through Jacob's struggle, right? But go ahead and keep going on. Let's see, verse 27.
Verse 27. Yahweh will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab, and with the itch, whereof thou cannot be healed.
Is this a spiritual botch of Egypt? Is this a spiritual scab and an itch where you can't be healed? It's not. This is what happened to the Native Americans, right? When they brought smallpox, you know how much scabs and itching they did until they died, right? When the so-called colonizers, invaders, murderers, rapists, whatever you want to call them, when they came over here, this is what they did. This was a curse, right? Go ahead.
Yahweh shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart.
So yeah, how will these? This is another curse. Madness. What is madness? Is crazy. Now, yeah, that's a mental thing, right? It's a spiritual thing. But can't you tell when somebody's crazy? You could physically tell when somebody's crazy.
Don't they physically act crazy?
And a lot of times they physically hurt themselves or hurt other people,
Yep.
right? Go ahead and keep actually jump down to 30.
Verse 30. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant the vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
In one verse, this tells you three different physical curses, right? There's no spiritualizing or over spiritualizing this. It says you're gonna betroth a wife, someone else is gonna sleep with her. You're gonna build a house, and you're not gonna get to live in it. You're gonna plant a vineyard, and you're not gonna gather the grapes or the fruit of it, right? And we know who this is why it's crazy to me with these Negro only Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are you gonna judge if verse 46, I believe it's 46, Khan, it says, they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. The curses are on the Israelites and their seed, in case you wonder who the Israelites are,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you ask anybody with some common sense, right, who are the ones building the houses in America?
Mm-hmm.
Who are the ones planting vineyards and growing food and vegetables and fruits and stuff of that nature, right? It's the so-called Hispanic or Latinos primarily, right? You have some others sprinkled in there, right? You have, but the majority of them, right? It's like I always say, the rule. There's exceptions to the rule. You might have some so-called white people, some so-called other nations of people, but it's primarily so-called Central American, South American, right? Down here in South Texas, it's primarily so-called Mexicans, Guatemalans, El Salvadorians. That's mainly who it is, right? Because the curses are upon them. But again, back to the point, these are physical curses, right? And that's why it's very hard to believe when people say they are blessed, right? But they have no physical blessings. When they say they're following the word, but then their marriage is out of order, their children are all wicked, right? When in Sirach it says a man will be known by his children,
Mm-hmm.
right? When in Joshua it says, me and my house will serve Yahweh, but then the whole house is out of order because a wicked woman is given to a wicked man.
Like
Because,
Genesis 18 and 19.
Khan, if you want to get that as well,
Time.
because we have to understand, and I'm not saying blessings are only physical, right? Because I always bring up Proverbs 20 and 12, which I'm going to get right now. Just for some people that are going to say, you know, obviously blessings can be not physical as well. But if you want to read that,
I mean, hell, most of them, even with Proverbs 20 and 12, most of them
Khan,
still physical.
Khan.
But this is Genesis 18, verse 19. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of Yahweh to do justice and judgment, that Yahweh may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him.
And what was that he had spoken of him? That blessed will be his seed.
Exactly.
Why? Because he said he's going to make them keep the ways of the Most High. In other words, he's going to make them practically apply the ways of the Most High to their lives. Right? It's not enough to just read the Bible and hear the Bible. Right? Blessed are they that hear, but also that do. You have to be doers of the word. Right? If you want to get, I think it's Revelation 1 and 3.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is Proverbs 20 and 12. It says, the hearing ear and the seeing eye, Yahweh hath made even both of them. Right? So spiritually, if you can hear this word and understand it, right, with spiritual ears to hear and you have spiritual eyes to see, obviously that's a huge blessing. Without that, none of us would have a chance at the kingdom.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know what's going on.
But I guarantee you, and it's like this one brother, his name's Endured to the End, um,
Yeah.
on Instagram, right? He's a real sincere brother. I've talked to him multiple times, and man, he's a real down to earth and stable minded brother. I'll say that, right? And but what he's posted multiple times, and every time, like today, I was coming home from work. I got home from work, and I just thought of him because he's posted it multiple times. He's like, one of the most overlooked blessings is going to work and coming back, and you're safe.
It's crazy you say that, cause I literally every day when I pray, bro, I literally thank the Most High for like no matter where I go, whether I just go get some groceries from HEB or something, I be like, man, thank you, Abba, for allowing me to be safe on the way there and back just now.
Calm. When I got home today from work, because I had to drive like an hour and 20, an hour and 30 minutes over there, and then same back.
Mm-hmm.
And I got back, and I just thought of that, and I was like, man, the
Yeah.
water.
Man, cause you can literally get you know what I'm saying, shoot, he could punch your clock at any moment. So
At any moment, right? But going along with this verse, it says, the hearing ear and the seeing eye, Yahweh have made them both. How many times have y'all, it shows, that's 6 or 8. It shows there's 8 people on here right now, right?
mm-hmm.
When was the last time you thanked the Most High that you can hear, you could see physically, right?
Count them
The
blessings.
water for not making me blind, the water for allowing me to hear and see and taste and feel and smell,
Yeah.
right?
I
These are
just
physical blessings that many people overlook.
I just thank him for giving me a healthy temple the other day.
Same here.
Cause I just being transparent moment. I used to get caught up because my body isn't the size that I always wanted to be. Even when I was in college, like it wasn't the size that I always wanted. But I always thank the Most High just for giving me a healthy, functional temple instead of seeing people out here. They be in a wheelchair and they be on the ventilator and stuff, and they can't even walk shit 5 steps without doing all that. So
Con. And what does that come back to?
non-practicality. That's what that comes down to.
Con. And also Deuteronomy, this is Deuteronomy 28, back to the curses, right? This is Deuteronomy 28 and 61. This is one of the curses. Also, every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law,
Mm.
them will Yahweh bring upon thee until thou be destroyed.
He ain't even give you his whole book of secrets.
So, because in the verse before it says he's going to bring upon you the diseases of Egypt, right? And they're going to cleave to you. But then 61 says also every sickness and plague that's not written in the law. So we have to understand that it's also a curse, a physical curse, right? When you are sick. And that's why he read earlier, when you're going against the Most High, when you sin against your maker, he's going to allow you to fall into the hands of the physician. And for some people, it's a wake up call and they realize, you know what? I've been living against the Most High. I've been sinning against him,
Yep.
right? But at the same time, for the majority of people, it's like it doesn't matter. They're gonna keep over spiritualizing. Well, God knows my heart. That's one of the worst one. Well, God knows my
Oh,
heart.
yeah, you know your ass wicked.
He knows how wicked you are. That's why you're sick in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's not me trying to point trying to poke anybody or make fun of them or nothing like that. That's what the book
And
says.
that's a detrimental statement too, because you say you know your heart, yeah, you do. And if he
He
know,
does know your heart.
and if you say that and you ain't pure hearted, yeah, it's your ass.
Calm. And that's like that's like those memes. I've seen many different pictures people will put, and it's like only God can judge me. And it's like, man, that should scare you, bro. Like
Yeah, yeah.
you're gonna keep being wicked.
They ain't read Hebrews 10 and 26. That's why. That's the
Con.
only reason why.
It's a very fearful thing to fall into the hands of the Most High, but people don't believe it's the Most High doing it to them
I think
the
it's
majority of the
karma.
time,
Karma.
right? They think it's karma. They think this is the craziest thing for me, right? I know a lot of people that have said they believe because I used to be a so-called conspiracy theorist, right? Me and the brother Jomar have talked about that many times. I'll say conspiracy realist, but anyways, there's people in that community that believe that the world is ran by like satanic people, but then they don't believe in the Most High and they don't believe in the Bible.
Yep.
Like, how are you gonna believe the world is ran by satanic reptilian people, but then you don't believe about them in the Most High?
Gotta be the other side to it.
Right? There's a negative, there's a positive, there's a black, there's a white. Like, how are you not gonna believe in that? There's people that believe in the microchip and the mark of the beast and all this, and they don't believe in the Bible.
Shit crazy, bro. I don't get it, bro. Honestly, I don't try to understand them, but it just they logic, bro. It just don't make any damn sense.
Con. But go ahead and read that out.
This Revelation chapter 1, verse 3. Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand.
The time is at hand right now, right? Whether you believe it or not. I remember for Feast of Tabernacles, there was a sister that was here, right? And she said, remember like a couple years ago when we were like thinking like, oh, Jacob's trouble is gonna get real bad next year, or the year after that. And I'm like, well, it is getting bad.
It's already there.
It's getting worse and worse and worse. And for people, I've been trying to stay away from Instagram the past couple weeks, for the feast days and stuff like that. But for people that aren't paying attention, you have to understand, or people that don't understand or pay attention to the markets, like that's a big telltale of what's gonna come very soon, right? And me and the brother were talking about it. It's in cycles. Everything's in cycles, and this next coming New Year, March, April, around then, you just watch what's gonna happen. Just watch what's gonna happen because you already have the Chinese yen, you have the euro, the European dollar, you have the Japanese dollar. All of these are already failing to the point where they're actually stopping from using the US dollar like Russia has for a long time and other countries as well. But what's happening is all these currencies are collapsing at the same time. And why do you think that's happening at the same time? It's all set up that way. It's for a reason because they're gonna bring in that digital currency, and then once the digital currency comes in, then the mark comes in, and we already know many people are gonna give into that.
A lot of these camps gonna give into sure they are already teaching it's okay to get it.
There's already you got the biggest camp IUIC teaching that you can repent from getting the mark of the beast, right? But that's for a whole nother video,
Yeah, that's a
whole nother topic. Um, the brother Armando said, Tawada Abanawa for allowing me to get up from my bed in the morning. Khan.
All praises to Abanawa Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh.
Khan. But the point is, right, you have many leaders, so-called leaders, elders, teachers, etc., that are teaching or over spiritualizing many things to the point where you have to start questioning it, or you're gonna end up being that blind person following the blind that falls into a pit, that falls into a ditch,
You might not get out of it.
right? And you may not be able to climb out. The Most High may not let you climb out because you had enough warnings. Because he might just put your light out.
I think about whenever you say like put the light out. I think of what it says in Revelation when he talks about Jezebel's punishment. He said, "I gave her space to repent, and she did not.
She didn't repent.
He gave even the most wicked thing on this earth the space to repent." And like, come
on, calm. And think about it. If the Most High gave her space to repent, don't we all have space to repent? Of course, we know that there are certain people that were made for destruction, fitted for destruction, right? Vessels fitted for destruction, right? Is what it says in Romans. There's made some vessels made to honor, some vessels made to dishonor. But if you know of the truth, right? If you're studying, if you're seeking the Most High, you're seeking wisdom, you're seeking to apply the Bible, it's definitely for a reason, right? Because one thing I've thought of many times going along with that, like getting your light put out, right? Getting your light put out You got to understand. I've said this many times on many different lives. I told many brothers and sisters this. When you're walking in a world of darkness and you're letting your light shine by keeping the commandments, right? All these spirits are like mosquitoes and they go to your light. They want to go and they want to suck the blood out of you, right? So when you get your light put out, right, there's a lot of I know personally a couple brothers and a sister that used to be in this thing, right? And it's like it seems as though physically like they're not really going through that much no more, even though they're not following the Most High, right? And it's because when your light gets put out, Satan doesn't have to tempt you no more.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to go against. He doesn't have to fight against you no more. There comes a point in time where the Most High could just put your light out, and he'll wait till your destruction comes. He'll wait till Jacob's trouble comes, the time of punishment, right? So that in that day you could be punished, right?
That's terrible.
And I think it was Denzel Washington that had said a long time ago. He said, like, when the devil's not messing with you no more, that's when you know. That's when you know you got a problem,
Yeah, that's the real problem.
because that means he's on your side.
Yep, he trying to be cool with you now. I don't want that. Keep that. Keep trying to tempt me. Shit.
So the sister Lahama said, Shalom family, that reminds me of that scripture that says something like, choose thee this day who you will serve.
24:15.
Khan, Joshua 24:15. If you want to get that out real quick. Khan. And this is something else that comes up a lot with certain brothers and sisters that I'll tell them, actually, let's read it and then I'll explain that, right? That's a really good scripture. That's one of my favorite scriptures.
Facts.
We actually did a study pertaining to this. We didn't go over this particular verse, but we went over Luke what is it, 11 and then 18. Go ahead.
This is Joshua chapter 24, verse 15. And if it seem evil unto you to serve Yahweh, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh.
Khan. So choose ye this day who you will serve. Right? This can be applied to basically anything in your life pertaining to the scriptures. Choose ye this day who you will serve. Right? It's like let me get this precept actually to go along with it. You got a precept or what?
Yeah, I do actually. So, Sirach chapter 5, verse 7 goes with this great. Make no tarrying to turn to Yahweh, and put not off from day to day. For suddenly shall the wrath of Yahweh come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance.
Khan. Make no tarrying. Tarrying means waiting around. Tarrying means I'm going to, I'll get right tomorrow. Right? I'll be set apart in a few days, next week, next month.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'll start keeping Sabbath next Sabbath. That's making a very prideful assumption that the Most High is going to give you that much time.
Exactly, man.
Right? What did we just read the other day? Was it Proverbs 28 or 27?
Boast not thyself.
Come, boast
27,
not thyself.
27 and 1.
27 and 1. Boast not thyself of the morrow. Right? You don't know what one day is going to bring you. He could put your light out tonight. Oh, I'll get right tomorrow. No, you won't.
You put your shit out in like 5 minutes. Keep playing.
Right? So you got to be very careful to assume that he's going to give you tomorrow to choose. Right? He's saying, choose this day to follow me. Choose this day. Look, I'm giving you an opportunity to follow my word today. But no, tomorrow, I got you tomorrow, Most High.
That's crazy. Imagine the Most High coming to you right now saying, hey, if you come follow me right now, I got you. What you gonna say? You gonna be like, nah, let me get like 24 hours. Nah, I get back to you.
Right.
Deuces, you already gone.
That's it. It's like it's like that brother following me. She would say, "The train has left the station."
This is
Someone else got your seat. Sorry about that, girl.
somebody else got it.
Right? But if you can get Matthew 4:18,
Con.
this is what we studied the other day, right? To go along with this, and then we'll go ahead and close it out.
Temptation.
That's my favorite too. I believe I got it from your channel. It cut me deep. Khan, all praise to the Most High.
Hallelujah. Oh.
Choose ye this day whom you will serve. In Acts, I believe it's 22:14 or 16, it also says, make no tarrying to be baptized. Right? So if any of you haven't been baptized in water for remission of sins, that's another thing to think about.
Trying to tell you, man, it's one step you can't skip. It says Matthew chapter 4, verse. I got you. So like it's Matthew chapter 4, verse 1.
18, not 18.
Oh, 18. Got you. Thought you were going to do it. Got you. Verse 18. And Yahushua, walking by the sea of Galilee, saw two brethren, Simon called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And he saith unto them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And they straightway left their nets and followed him.
So imagine this. Imagine if this was you, right? Put yourself in that situation. If our Messiah, right, if he came up to you and you were working, right? They were fishers. They were trying to catch some fish to eat, to sell them, whatever the case may be. He came and said, "Follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men." And what did they do?
Let's go.
They dropped their nets, they stopped what they were doing, and they straightway followed him. They just up and followed him. That was it. No questions asked. They didn't even say nothing. They just followed him. Right? This is the opportunity or the chance that we all have today. If you're watching this right now on the live or you're watching it later on, right? You have an opportunity. Obviously, you're watching this video for a reason, right? Isaiah 55:11, the Most High's word doesn't go out and return void. It's for one reason or another. It could be to your salvation, it could be to your damnation. It could be for you to hear it and then, you know what? I do need to start serving the Most High today, right now. Or it could be, well, I know I should, and you don't do it, and now you have no excuse, right? But the point of this is, they straightway just started following him. And what is it? What is Yahushua's nickname? Is the Word. So now he's not going to come up to you and say, "Come follow me." Right now, that's not how it works. But you have the opportunity to follow the Word by practically applying it to your life starting today, by you choosing to follow the Most High today, right? And if you do so, then you have a chance at the kingdom. But you can also, if you want to go to Luke 9 and verse 50, 56.
Con. This is Luke chapter 9, verse 56. For the Son of Man is not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. And they went to another village.
So this is something we got to understand, right? Following the word is not to destroy your life. It's gonna destroy your old life.
Oh, definitely.
If you practically apply it.
Yeah, you're gonna lose a lot.
But here he's not talking about your physical life. He's talking about your spiritual life. It says he's coming to save your life. Right? Now go ahead and keep going.
And it came to pass that as they went in the way, a certain man said unto him, Lord, I will follow thee whithersoever thou goest.
So somebody came to him and said, came to our Hamashiach, our Messiah, right? And said, I'll follow you wherever you go. Right? Go ahead.
And Yahushua said unto him, Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head.
So why is he saying this? Because this man is saying, hey, I'll follow you wherever you go. And he said, look, foxes and birds, they have their homes, but I don't even have a home. Right? You want to follow me?
You sure you won't do that?
He's testing him out, right? Go ahead.
And he said unto another, Follow me. But he said, Lord, suffer me first to go and bury my father.
So he said he would follow him wherever he goes, right? So imagine somebody nowadays, right, saying that, oh man, yeah, I believe the word and Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai Barakatah and all this stuff, and I'm an Israelite and blah blah blah. But then they read something, the word, right? Because Yahweh Shai is the word, and then man, I'll maybe tomorrow, next week, next month, then I'll follow that part of the word, right? And this is just another example. Verse 59, it says, Follow me. You're being called to follow the word, right? Right now. We're all being called to follow the word.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's a blessing to have eyes to see that, Proverbs 20 and 12. But he said, Lord, suffer me first to go and bury my father. So this is what a lot of people do, especially we're talking about being set apart earlier. A lot of people won't be set apart because they still want that relationship with the wicked person that they don't want to be set apart from.
Mm-hmm.
So what when you bury somebody, when someone physically dies, let's see, say a family member dies, you bury them to try and seek some type of closure. But as me and this brother have talked about, right, when I've gone to funerals of people that I loved, when he went to a funeral of someone he loved, you don't really get closure from that.
Hell no, you don't.
You don't get closure from that. And seeing it spiritually, as far as, oh, please let me go bury my father first, then I'll follow the word. The majority of the times when you're going to leave somebody wicked to follow the word, the only closure you need is closing the door on them for good.
Slam it in their face.
And that's it. You close the door, you walk away. You don't need no, that's the closure that you really need. Because if not, it's like he said earlier, it's like you're tempting the Most High,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're leaving temptation around you. You're setting wickedness before your eyes. You're standing in the way of sinners, right? A little leaven, leaven it the whole lump. Can two walk together except they be agreed? Bad communication corrupts good manners. All of these things. So many times you can't. It's a very ignorant thing to even ask that, right? Let me just get closure with this relationship first. Go ahead.
Con.
60.
60. Yahweh said unto him, Let the dead bury their dead, but go thou and preach the kingdom of Yahweh.
He said, "Let the dead bury their dead." In other words, those people are spiritually dead. What do you even have any business being around them for? Right? Kingdom minded 144. You got to take action now.
You better know it.
Now, Ak. Shalom, Ak. I hope all is well with you. That's the brother that's in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Khan, you got to take action now. And again, action. Action. It's physical, right? It's physical. No matter what a lot of people will jump to Ephesians and be like, hey, well, our warfare is spiritual. Yes, it's spiritual. The word is spiritual too, but you physically follow the word. And
Mm-hmm.
guess what? In order to defeat spiritual demons, you got to do some physical things.
So do.
You got to fast.
Physically fast.
You got to physically stay away from, let's say you're struggling with weed. You got to physically stay away from weed.
Mm-hmm.
You got to physically stay away from people that smoke weed, that deal weed, that sell weed, that even smell like weed. A lot of times you got to stay away from them, even if they don't smoke weed anymore, because just that spirit of it's like me and this brother have talked about many times. If you have a relationship with somebody, right? Let's say it's a female or a dude, whatever the case may be, and y'all's whole relationship prior to the truth has been based off of sin, right? If your whole foundation of your relationship was based on sin, right? How could it work out? How can you build anything on top of that wicked foundation?
It gotta be tore all the way down. And it gotta, like, this is how I think of it. I'm glad you brought that up. I personally feel like the only way that right there will work And I say this out of reverence for you and your wife's marriage because that comes from a two-sided thing, not just
Con,
one-sided. Both of y'all were willing to
con,
tear the whole house down and just rebuild a whole new one.
con.
But see, when it's built off of wickedness to begin with, and you got one person trying to tear it down, and the other person halfway trying to half-ass it, then you got to just get rid of the whole shit.
Trying to still build off of that.
You know what I'm saying? Just go ahead and find you a new house or and a new partner in crime. You know, but the Most High is gonna be the one to make you find it anyway. So.
Con, most definitely. And that's actually, I'm glad you said that too, because if you could go to Sirach 6, I believe it's 6 and 16.
Mm-hmm.
Because a sister had asked recently, well, I know two is better than one, and woe to him that falls and he has no one to help him. But my problem is like, how am I gonna find somebody that's really about the Most High, and that is truly. I don't see how I could find some. There's nobody in my area
I mean, it's a
that's
good question.
right. It's a good question, but it's a simple answer, right?
Exactly. So this is Sirach 6, verse 16. A faithful friend is the medicine of life, and they that fear Yahweh shall find him.
So you got to really fear the Most High, and then the Most High he's gonna give you that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and read that again, and then 17 as well, Baba Kasha.
Come. A faithful friend is the medicine of life, and they that fear Yahweh shall find him. Whoso feareth Yahweh shall direct his friendship aright, for as he is, so shall his neighbor be also.
So a faithful friend is the medicine of life, because a friend that is faithful is gonna help you out with the scriptures, right? In Wisdom of Solomon, it says it's the word that heals all things. So a faithful friend is going to give you that medicine. Oh, you're going through this. Okay, look, here's some scriptures on this. Or the Most High says this and this and this. That's going to be medicine to whatever ailment you're going through. But guess what? They physically give you the word, right? And they that fear Yahweh shall find him. Whoso feareth Yahweh shall direct his friendship aright. So if you really fear the Most High, he's going to direct your friendships in the right direction. If you're half-assing it, like the brother said, well, maybe you'll get a half-assed friend. You know why? Because it says, they that fear Yahweh shall find him. And then it also says, for as he is, so shall his neighbor be also. All beasts cleave to their like, right? Like it says in Sirach 13. Everybody is gonna cleave to those that they're most like, right? That's why you see so-called brothers that claim to be in the truth, but they can't get out the clubs.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't stop hanging out with people that are always smoking weed and reveling and are alcoholics and all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Yahweh Shai sat with sinners, but you're not Yahweh Shai.
Exactly. Like what you thinking,
And,
bro?
and another thing is, when Yahweh Shai was sitting with sinners, he was consistently giving them the word.
Exactly.
He would give the word, move on.
He was trying to heal him.
Give the word, move on. And I'm glad you said that too, because guess what? A faithful friend is the medicine of life. Most people have been sick for so long that they don't want medicine.
Mm-hmm.
They are comfortable, or how we said in what was it, Proverbs 27? They're full.
The full soul
They're
loatheth
full.
the honeycomb.
The full soul loatheth the honeycomb. Meaning, when you're full of whatever you've been living in, when you're full of yourself, when you're full of your situation, in other words, you're content with it, right? A lot of people don't want medicine because being sick gets them attention,
Yep.
or because being sick, they're just comfortable with it, right? And that's why there's another quote. It says, I can't remember who it was. It's a really old quote. It said, before you heal somebody, ask them if they're willing to give up what made them sick.
It's real.
Most people aren't willing to give up what makes them sick. That's why you got people that, let's say they get cancer, and it's because they've been eating swine and they've been eating shrimp and all these abominations, and then they get cured. But then they go back to it and they eat it again and they eat it again, and guess what? It comes back. Well, of course it came back. You didn't take away what was making you sick. All the medicine you take isn't gonna continue to cure you if you keep taking what makes you sick. And it's the same thing. That's a example when it comes to eating, but it's also the same thing of false doctrines, right? If somebody's in, it's like certain brothers I've talked to, and they don't believe certain things that their camp or congregation teaches. Yeah, well, I don't agree with that, but I want to stay because I need to be around, brothers that this and that, and whatever the
Every beast cleave to his mate.
right. In the end, there's gonna be something else,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's gonna be something else, and how it comes down to how much are you willing to give up for that person or that congregation or that camp, and but in reality, you're going against the Most High, because that's a form of idolatry right there. And then one more example, same thing with any type of relationship. If you're not willing to give up the person that causes you to go off, or the environment that causes you to go off, or the people, whether it be friends, family, whether it be a relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, if you're not willing to give them up, then what's the point in trying to be healed?
Exactly.
You're just going to go back to the same sickness.
Keeping that womb open.
Exactly. So the point of all of it, this brother said it best. You got to take action now, right? Like the sister said, choose thee this day who you will serve, right? Joshua 24:15. Choose this day who you're going to serve. Said it cut me deep. Khan. It has to, if you want to get that as well, like Hebrews 4 and 12, real quick. We'll probably finish with that. That club spirit is strong. It is strong.
Strong with the word.
Even though it says that clubbing is going to get you killed, reveling will get you killed. And the definition of reveling is partying and dancing with loud music and drinking. That is the definition of the club,
Mm-hmm.
right? But now show me that in the law.
This is Hebrews chapter 4, verse 12. For the word of Yahweh is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart.
So it cuts into your soul and spirit. This is why people hate the word. This is why people hate you for giving the word. But it's like it says in Thessalonians, they don't really despise you. They despise the person who wrote the word, which is the Most High, right? That's why the scriptures say, am I therefore your enemy because I tell you the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but in reality, you're becoming an enemy of the Most High because you hate his word, right? You're either gonna practically apply his word, especially when it cuts into you, right? I could count them on my hand the amount of people, and this brother's one of them. I could count them on my hand how many people would actually be cut by the word that I know personally, and then like, all right, you know what? But it cut, but now it's time to heal, and I gotta apply it,
Thanks.
right? Not many people can do that. They're gonna be cut by the word, and then they're gonna cut you off because they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to be cut by the word.
They don't want the truth.
They don't appreciate correction,
Mm-hmm.
right? It says a wise man, does it say loves or loveth correction or reproof?
A wise man will hear. I know it says a wise man will hear reproof and increase learning.
That's another one.
I forgot what it's. I know some proverbs.
Can you go ahead and read that one more time, Mike?
Con. Hebrews 4 and 12. For the word of Yahweh is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit, and of the joints and marrow, and as a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart.
So that's a very important part at the end. The word is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. Any man, any so-called teacher, leader, any female on Instagram or Facebook or in real life or anybody for that matter can say anything they want to. They can say I'm an Israelite, I follow the Most High, I'm a law keeper, I'm a follower of our Messiah, whatever they want to say. But the word is going to discern your heart. Meaning, again, if you are not practically applying the word, it shows what's in your heart. Right? That's why our Messiah Yahushua said that it's not what goes into the mouth that defiles a man. Because if I accidentally eat something that has pork in it right now, I'm only defiled or unclean until the next day, until the even is what it says in the law. So that doesn't really defile me permanently. But what comes out of my heart, what comes out of a man's heart is murders and covetousness and theft and hatred and all of these other things. That's what can really defile you and get you put to death and stop you from inheriting the kingdom. Right? So the word discerns what's really in your heart. And how does it discern that? By are you gonna practically apply it or not? Right? And that's gonna show. And that's why Yahushua said in Matthew 7, you know a tree by what?
His fruits.
By its fruits. You're either gonna have good fruit or you're going to have bad fruit. And you can physically see when people have good fruit. You can physically see when people have bad fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So again, lastly, I'm gonna finish with the definition of practical one more time. It says practical, adjective of or concerned with the actual doing or use of something rather than with theory or ideas. Many people have ideas and interpretations and theories on the scriptures. But when the scriptures say be set apart, it comes down to will you practically apply it? When the scriptures say come out of her, my people, will you physically and practically apply it? When the scriptures say be baptized for remission of sins, will you physically and practically apply it? Right? For those of you who are new to the truth, right? I know a few brothers and sisters have hit me up as well that have been watching the videos. When it says there's certain laws you have to keep, you cannot eat certain things, whether it be pork, whether it be shellfish, whether it be shrimp, whatever the case may be. Are you gonna physically and practically apply that? Are you gonna physically and practically keep the Sabbath and just be still and not buy and not sell and not cook? Right? All of these things cannot be over spiritualized because if you do, like I said before, you're moving in the spirit, but it's not in the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So with that, you got anything to add, Ak?
Man, honestly, the only thing I gotta say is, I mean, it's like what the brother was saying the whole time. You know, you can't over spiritualize everything. Literally, like I understand there's a spiritual side to everything. There's also a physical side to everything, but there was never, ever, ever in the history of mankind, for as long as we've ever lived, where a blessing was put in front of somebody and they didn't physically have to go and do something to receive the blessing. Like, it don't matter how many ways you try to hyper spiritualize everything, like, everything has a physical side to it, even when you think it doesn't.
Con.
Literally, everything has a physical side to it, no matter what. Think about it. I mean, if you really want to get deep, you know, if you really want to get spiritual, it's a reason why the word came in the flesh. So it wasn't only spirit.
Con.
If that makes sense. Don't let it go over your head.
Nah, Oxy, because spirit. Nah. And yeah, to go along with what the brother said, think of every character in the Bible, right? Didn't they all have to physically go through something? They all had to physically go through something.
I ain't read about one that didn't.
All of them, in order to receive blessings.
Including Yahushua.
Including the perfect example, Yahushua. Right? So with that, we give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, through his son, Yahushua. Hope y'all have a good Shabbat, those of y'all who are observing it. I pray, I believe there was a couple of brothers that had said they were still keeping Feast of Tabernacles. We already finished with it, but if you're keeping that as well, hope you have a blessed one, safe one. Y'all stay in the spirit, moving in the spirit, which means moving in the word, right? John 6:63, Yahushua said, the words I speak to you are spirit and they are life, right? Mahama, all praises. Khan, Shabbat Shalom, sis. Armando Alcala, Yahweh Hashem, Yahushua Barakatah. Appreciate the blessing. I hope y'all have a blessed one. Till next time, Shalom.